Hey, IB Environmental students. This is the Water Podcast Part 1, Earth's Water Budget. Let's begin. So let's talk some basic water facts. You don't need to jot these all down. Water is the majority of the Earth's surface. Most organisms depend on having the majority of their body being water. And the water has this wonderful ability to sculpt the surface, whether it's rock or soil, through weathering or erosion. Water is important to moderating global climate, which we'll talk about when we get to climate change. It is also something that is the universal solvent, so many pollutants are dissolved in water, and we'll talk about that when we get to pollution later in the year. When we think about this amount of water on the Earth's surface, we have to understand that the majority of that is salt water, saline, vast majority, 97.4%. And that leftover fresh water is differentiated into a lot of it not even being available, meaning that 80% of the leftover 2.6 is in ice caps or in glaciers. About 0.6 is in the groundwater that's not super accessible. 20% is in our surface water. And then 0.014 is available for total use. That's pretty incredible. Water sources. There are two major water sources we're going to talk about in this class. The first is surface water, which is from precipitation that doesn't infiltrate into the ground. That's going to be our lakes, our streams, our wetlands, our reservoirs. We can see that all on the surface here in this picture. There is also some runoff that's going to come from up above, forming our watershed. About 1/3 of total runoff is readily available for our water use. So think about that as 1/3 of runoff that flows into our Potomac River. That's going to be our area we get our water in Fairfax. The other water source is groundwater. Groundwater will actually infiltrate after it rains into the soil and into the lower areas of bedrock. This will form aquifers. Notice that aquifer has the prefix aqua, like water. And we can actually recharge those areas after we kind of pump some of it out. We will then have to wait for the water to replenish into this underlying areas. Do notice that we are using more and more water throughout the world over time in different ways. Agriculture is vastly the majority, industrial use, and then our residential uses. Why are we using more? Well, we're having different living standards, and there's more of us out there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to compare in different locations where is the water getting used. So I would pause this and jot down these pie charts. It's important to see that agriculture by far is the majority, and it is vastly more the majority in this for China. Industry is going to be about 20% and residential 10%. These are worldwide statistics. Do see that these statistics in here compared to China are different. I would get these two case studies down. And lastly, consumptive water. This is going to be in a not reusable from a basin. This might be because of evaporation or pollution. We have to understand that not all of the water is available, and we can't really think about that. When we're talking about industrial use, I just want to make sure you guys understand some examples. Do know industrial water comes from the fact that water is used for making automobiles, clothing, metalworking, making our food after it's agriculturally made, paper, steel, lots of water use. But do also understand that water is going to be something we need to conserve. A lot of the planet is in a shortage, especially areas that are a bit more dry in this darker blue color. Why is it that way? Why is it this way? Well, those many people who are really struggling, some causes could be that water's not really close to there, or that there's really high population size and there's just not enough water for all of them. Maybe precipitation doesn't occur that often there, or maybe there's not a lot of technology to collect the water. Maybe the climate change across the globe is stressing the system as a whole, and maybe where those water resources exist, the people are too poor to afford them, or it's not safe to access the water. Next time we'll talk about water part 2. Thanks for being patient to make sure I got a version of this that actually has sound. Thanks, guys.